Welcome to the Sencast. My name is Dale Pickles, Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the Sencast. If you are a new listener, then welcome to the Sencast. In this episode, we discussed supporting learning outcomes in children with Down syndrome and helping them reach their full potential. My guest this week was Sarah Holton from Down Syndrome UK, a specialist advisory teacher and leader of their early years development programme. Sarah is a parent of a child with Down syndrome and has worked with Down Syndrome UK for many years, developing their early development groups and delivering lots of training and information sharing sessions. The Sencast is created by us here at B Squared, and I normally mention our assessment software that everyone knows us for, but this time let's talk about Eversense. Eversense is our evidence for learning and parental engagement platform. It feels like social media, so it's extremely easy to use, but it is also extremely secure. It's a really safe place to share evidence of learning, have those conversations with parents in an easy way, and it's also a great way to capture pupil voice and more. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to find out more about Eversense and how it can help your school. Now, let's get on with that podcast. My guest this week is Sarah Holton from Down Syndrome UK, and Sarah is a specialist advisory teacher and leader of their early years development programme. Sarah is a parent of a child with Down syndrome and has worked with Down Syndrome UK for many years, developing their early development groups and delivering lots of training and information sharing sessions. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are very, very welcome. I did not know that children with Down syndrome have a different learning profile.
Yes.
And I wonder how many others know there is a learning profile that they can use to support learning. So let's start with, what does this learning profile look like?
Right. Well, I think it's great that you say you didn't know, because I think a lot of people don't know, and a bit of me thinks, why should we? But also I think it's really important to get that understanding out there so that we can begin to really support our young people with Down syndrome from birth to adulthood. I do quite a lot of training, and in all my trainings, somewhere in there, I will get something about the learning profile in there, because I see it as a bit of a baseline. If we know about that, if we understand about that learning profile, and we have that as a baseline, whether we're teachers or parents or other professionals, then we can start from there, and then we add in all the wonderful individual bits on the top. But there is, I think, it used to be thought that people with Down syndrome had just a delay. So they were just delayed in their learning. They're just sort of maybe 2 years behind or 3 years behind. And that isn't true. There is a profile of strengths and difficulties. And what I think is most important is that we understand how to use those strengths to support the difficulties. So, for example, if we talk about the difficulties first, it's a bit, I don't want to sound a bit doom and gloom, but there are some. And then we can then talk about how we can support those difficulties. So in many children with Down syndrome, and I say children because that's who I work with, but it will be people with Down syndrome whatever age. But we know that there's often vision and hearing difficulties. And if we know that straight away, so if you've got a child with Down syndrome in your class and you know that it is likely they're going to have hearing difficulties, a high percentage of children with Down syndrome will have some kind of hearing difficulty. Straight off the bat, you're going to think, right, where are they going to sit? How am I going to speak to them? Do I need to know signing? Obviously, you'll find out for the individual what that means, but just knowing that is really common for our children, whether that's grommets or hearing aids or a bit of glue ear, or it's worse in the winter, but just finding that out is going to really, really help.
And with that hearing, I'm going to say, it sounds so, the ability to hear, not necessarily the processing.
Yes, so we'll come on. You're skipping ahead of me there.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. And it is the ability to hear. And as I talk in a bit about processing, that's an issue as well. So if you've got the two combined, you're going to put our children at a bit of a disadvantage, aren't you?
Yes.
So you've got to have, understanding about how hearing affects our children. And for many children with Down syndrome, it does. So that's kind of one of those things that we think, you need to know about that.
Yep.
Straight off the bat. The other one is vision. Lots of our children will wear glasses, and that's not, we all wear glasses. I've got them on today, so have you. So we know that vision can be impaired. But there's something else which I think is really important. And again, I try and get this into my training. I think I'll die on this hill. Is that all people with Down syndrome have difficulties with visual acuity, whether they wear glasses or not. And that's really, and I'm probably not describing it in the best way, but it's like seeing the world through a mist. So, and that's all people with Down syndrome. So again, if you know that, you're going to know, hang on a minute, well, if I'm making resources or all sorts of bits, or if there's things they've got to read or got to show them, it's got to be really clear with a really good contrast.
Thank you for saying it's like throwing fog. So I literally visual acuity.
Visual acuity.
What does that mean?
It's this. It's kind of the contrast of things. And there's a great example, I think, in the olden days when I was a teacher, it's that they see things a bit like the last thing that's been photocopied, when the toner's running out and it's not very clear, it's a bit grey. That is often kind of a way of saying this is what our children might see, or people with Down syndrome might see. So again, knowing that straight away, you go, well, I'm going to make sure that when I'm giving this information or I'm showing this bit of text, it's not going to be too small. Going to use large fonts. I'm not going to have really pale things to colour because it's quite hard to see. Having big and bold contrast. So kind of vision and hearing up there with kind of those difficulties that many people with Down syndrome will have. So just knowing that is going to be really, really helpful. I'll go on then, linking to what you were saying about processing difficulties. And again, I think this is the big one, is learning from listening is really hard, often really hard for our children with Down syndrome. So when I go into schools and preschools, it's often that carpet time, that input time, listening to instructions. It's not that they're going, oh, I don't fancy doing this. It's I can't remember it. The verbal short-term memory can be a tricky little customer. So holding on to things that they've heard can be tricky. I always say, if I think about my son or anybody, if I give them a list of instructions, right, we're going outside, you need to have your shoes and your coat and your phone, read off the list, he'll remember the last thing I've said. Yep. And I see that in preschools where you go, right, we're going outside, but you need to have your coat and your hat and your scarf and your wellies ready to go outside. And we're thinking, yeah, I'm going outside. Can't remember what else you said, but I'm out of here. So learning from listening, really, really hard. And if you think about schools and preschools and lots of other areas, including work environments, we talk a lot. We do. I know that. I think you do.
Ever so slightly.
So again, knowing that is tricky, we've got to go, well, how can I reduce the amount I'm talking, but also prompt that and support that with something else? And that goes, we'll talk about the strength in a minute. We'll talk about that. So learning from listening, that verbal short-term memory, processing, and as you said, hearing things and then being able to hold on to them can be quite hard. For our children, so that is a tricky little customer.
But I suppose if you've got a child in your class and you don't know those weaknesses, and you can kind of assume, if they can't, okay, so I've asked them to do this, they're not doing it. I've given them this, they didn't follow the instructions. You might think that is their level of ability.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really important that we make sure that we are finding ways for our children with Down syndrome to show what they know. Many parents and practitioners as well, professionals will say, oh, they understand more than they can let on. Absolutely. So it's our job to say, well, how can we make sure we know that? What can we do a little bit differently to make sure that we are knowing what they really know? And that actually leads me on to another thing in the profile, which is speech and language. All people with Down syndrome will have some type of speech and language difficulty. And it actually, no surprise, has its own profile, its own umbrella as well. Yep. But, there will be often people with Down syndrome might find conversations hard. And again, if I think about my son who's 19, so conversations are key. But he's got to listen to what's been said. He's got to remember when to respond, how to respond. Then he's got to make sure his speech is clear. There's a lot going on. So conversation can be quite tricky, as can expressive language. And that's exactly what you've just said there, Dale. Making sure that our children can say and show what they know. And for many children, especially younger children, that's really hard. Because I might not have the speech. I understand what you're saying, but I can't tell you. I can't show you that I know. So expressive language can be a big difficulty, for our children.
So, again, we're typical.
That's okay.
So in reality, again, you about early years. Early years is very much, it is speaking, listening. They're the two main communications. But kind of as you kind of grow, you probably change more to reading and writing.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to assume, based on these difficulties, that kind of what a child with Down syndrome, that spoken language, they could be struggling, but actually if you give them that they can read it, take it in, process at their speed and write the answers down, that will show you something completely different.
It can be again, and I think you've taken me on to my next point there. One of the relative strengths again in that profile is often reading, because they have where they've got difficulties with learning from listening. Often we see a relative strength in learning from looking. So this is where you can start to see where we can use some strengths in that profile to support the things that they find difficult. So a lot of our children, for example, will start their reading journey with sight words because they are easier to see, and using print really supports that visual memory. I've seen it written down, maybe with a picture as well, and that's going to stay in my memory more than if you just told it to me. So I certainly go into, we start it very early in our early development groups and preschools, is learning language through reading. So learning sentences and phrases and seeing them written down with pictures to match, it supports language, and as a bonus, little learning about reading as well, which is great. So thinking about, those strengths and difficulties, reading often a strength because the verbal short-term memory is often a relative strength. So remembering what they've seen is much easier than remembering what they've heard. So again, in educational sessions, if I say the word visuals once, I will say it a million times. Having visuals to support what you are saying, that might be signing, it might be a symbol, it might be a picture. And again, all our children are different, so may need different types of visuals and different things. But having visuals, I'm like, please use visuals to support what he's got to do. Make sure they know what they're doing. Let's have a now and next. Let's have some visual timetables. Let's have a list. If we're saying what you need to go out in the garden, let's have pictures of what you need by the door so that when you go out to play in the garden, you can remember your wellies, your coat and your hat. You don't necessarily need an adult telling you.
No.
You might need some support to learn that's what it means, but go and have a look. Yeah.
But also, with that thing, I was thinking when you said it earlier, just have a little sign, but you can also have a slider thing, because sometimes you really don't need your wellies.
No, you don't.
So you could always have a slider thing going, right, we'll need those today. Yeah. That's what you'll need.
Oh, the sky's the limit. I love a visual. Get a Velcro, bit of blue tack, all sorts. Lift the flap, all sorts of things.
Because again, with speaking and listening, two people have to be ready to communicate for that to work.
Yes.
Two people have to be going, right, you're going to speak. I'm ready to listen.
Yes, yeah. And not a lot of that happens anyway in early years.
No. Yeah, so I'm literally going, ready to listen. No, there's a fly.
I'm sorry, I'm off playing with my cars. Thanks very much. But I think speech and language is interaction and communication. Yes. So speech, of course, is a real goal. But in terms of interaction and communication with people, that's where it begins, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that might not be with speech. You can interact with people, you can communicate with people, you can share moments with people, but it doesn't have to be about speech, and it's about making sure that we are involving our children in those types of things. That's the bit, when you're interacting with your friend in school, that is the bit that gives you confidence, that gives you your self-esteem. I'm sharing this with my mate. There might not be any speech there, no. And that's okay. So they're sort of the same and separate.
It's that playing next to and playing with, that absolutely. Change
that's really
doesn't involve language.
No.
It's just going, actually, we can make something better. It's just that thing. And you kind of have to, you're just kind of going, this would be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still remember years ago, we went on holiday to Crete with my daughter and family, and went to a play area, and my daughter started playing with this girl. I have no idea where this girl was from. No idea. When my daughter played with this girl for about 2 hours in the sandpit, they had a whale of a time. And my daughter is still amazed when neither of us understood each other in any way.
Right.
But they had an absolute blast and were on the same page for the entire time.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Yeah.
So yes, we do need spoken language.
Yes,
It is the preferred way of communicating in this world.
Yes, it is.
It's a preferred way of socialising and all those things. But actually, a lot of time, there's lots of other communication going on.
And we need to make sure that we are supporting our children to do that, from a really early age as well. And I think we talk a lot of training I do at DSUK is around play. And a lot of when I go and visit preschools, it is about play skills. But play skills are just that little, I think, are social skills, but under a younger heading. Because it is, as you say, it is about playing alongside. Well, I shall let you next to me. And then it's about playing collaboratively. Oh, I am going to let you build a garage for my car and we'll play together. And it's understanding that other people are useful.
But I always think when I think of playing with and playing next to, it's that thing where you got the Brio train track out and one's doing a train one way, one's the other, and they basically get into a fight because they have to let each. And then after a while they realise, if I just lift mine over yours, we're fine.
Yeah, we're all right, and a bit of problem solving.
It's
never
exactly
hurt anyone,
yes. It is that problem solving, and you can't tell them that. They've got to find that's a journey that every child goes on their own.
Yes, but I think we know that our children with Down syndrome often need play partners for a bit longer. We need a bit of teaching about play skills, and say, let's have a theme. Let's work. Can you do this? Do you know that the train goes on the track and let's have a play together and have some play targets. And we definitely look at that when we're looking at training and our early years development programme for DSUK is how preschools, and when I say preschools I mean nurseries and childminders, anybody that is working with a child with Down syndrome, and play skills are kind of top of that list, a real priority. So
basically I would say you're explicitly teaching them rather than just giving them a train and the child going, got this.
Got it, yeah, absolutely.
You're going, this is a train, what am I doing? Yeah. You're kind of just going through, like, this goes on here. Get that. But now what?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just explicitly going through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about teaching, and I think we have to be more open to saying, what am I teaching the child with Down syndrome? And again, it sounds a bit kind of crass, doesn't it? I'm teaching you, but it's through modelling and demonstration. We know our children often need lots of repetition, consolidation, and don't always pick up on those cues around them like typically developing children might. Say we're teaching you this, But I also love a bit of independence. Go off, my lovely, and explore the world. Go in the garden and stick your face in mud. That's brilliant.
Because I was just thinking, we're teaching and I'm going, child-led. But it is kind of, if you're recognising that they're not sure, then kind of you've got to hold their hand.
Yeah,
but it's again, it's not saying this is what all. It's this is what they may.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we were chatting about it before, weren't we? That when we talk about, and I'm really keen on using that word potential, because everyone has a different potential. We're all of us are really different, and it's about making sure, and for children with Down syndrome, that making sure that they have opportunities and choice, and that we have knowledge around Down syndrome, because without all of that we can't support our children to reach their full potential. But that potential is just the best version that they can be of themselves. All our children are very different, as all people without Down syndrome are, but we have to have those things in place to be able to know that they are reaching their full potential, and that includes things like health, we're empowering parents and professionals to understand that we're understanding this learning profile, that we're understanding that there is research and evidence-based strategies that we can use to support our children, and for parents to feel really confident about that. Absolutely. So it's all about that potential. And I say that in schools and in training, that we want to support that child to be the best version of themselves. So this is why we kind of talk a lot about the profile and a lot about ways we can support our children.
So with that strength of witnesses, you talked about kind of difficulties around hearing, the visual acuity, the processing from hearing, and you said like originally people thought there was a delay.
Yes. Yeah.
So what you've not mentioned is a cognitive impairment.
Yes.
You've not mentioned anything about, they cannot.
Well, I have no crystal ball. I wouldn't like to say that about anybody. You know, obviously there is. It's a disability. It's a cognitive disability, but it has this specific profile of strengths and difficulties. A bit spiky, if you like. It's a bit of a spiky profile, and part of that, cognition is about the storing things, the processing things, and the understanding. Part of that is about vocabulary and speech and language. But there is. Yeah,
you're not saying they're not going to get GCSEs, they're not going to get A levels. You just don't. It's not a case of they've got Down syndrome, so they're not going to, or they can't.
Yeah. So everyone's cans will be different.
Yep.
And we want to celebrate celebrating those small steps, and they can be tiny, but man, they're worth celebrating. And there will be some children, some people with Down syndrome that academically can do some of those things you've mentioned. It is more likely that most will need some kind of support or different pathways. And we also know there's some children with more difficulties. But it's about recognising everybody and saying that we need to, again, that empowering that confidence within who they're working with, to understand them, to nurture them, and make them reach their potential, whatever that is.
Yeah, so main thing is, sometimes I find we have to really make this obvious, but they may have those weaknesses, they may have those challenges. It's not saying they can't, and I really like to emphasise sometimes because you might see that, they can't, or they're struggling with that. They're struggling with how they process, how they understand, and rather than speaking, if you can give them the same information written down.
Yeah, for some children, or
for
pictures,
some children,
or break it down, or smaller, shorter activities and build up. And again, when I do kind of training or working on, the things at DSUK, it is about saying, we don't say, we can't do that. You say, maybe not yet, or we break it down. So an example might be, and often schools will say, listening is hard. So that carpet time, and there's a lot of carpet time in schools, rather than going, they can't manage it, we'll go off and do something else. You go, well, hang on a minute. While you're moving them off to do something else, they're not included, so they're not feeling part of the class. But also, let's start with a minute on the carpet. Let's start, maybe you've got, I'm thinking school age here. Maybe you've got, we're doing year 1, year 2, you've got a 20-minute input session. You think, I might not manage 20 minutes, but let's start with a couple of minutes. We're going to give them some visuals. So we're learning about my favourite, the Great Friar of London. That's what we're doing. That always comes out of my training. It's probably the last one I did when I was a teacher, probably the last one I did. Great Friar of London comes out in year 2. And we're talking about the fire and how it started in the bakery. But let's get, for our child with Down syndrome, to hold some visuals. So I'll hold a book about it. So I'm holding pictures of the bakery. So I'm tuning in to bakery and fire. When they say, it's time for talk partners, I've got pictures to talk about. Even if I'm not talking, I can share them with my friend who sat next to me. And we may say, that's enough. And now you come off and we'll do a little bit of our own recapping maybe of the topic, and then you come back. So it's all about and I've had children start with 30 seconds before. So it's also empowering the staff to go, that's okay to start that small. Yep. It's okay, rather than go, we can't do it. Well, you're never going to know, are you? And there may be some children that will just manage, but that's the best they can be. They are managing 2 minutes, and some by the end will be joining in on the carpet all the time. But
it's that strategy, it's their expectations. And there might be, if that child is joining in, there's always going to be a slight adaptation, or they'll sit there and go, I'm finally getting how this works now.
Absolutely.
Thank you for scaffolding this.
And
I get it.
I am very much that person. I feel mean when I say it, but schools have rules. The rule is that you go here, you line up here, and you sit here, and sort of life has rules as well. And it is the children that have the most success, I think, wherever they end up being, that have those social expectations from a really early age, that you are joining in and that you are going here and it is time to wash your hands now. And if they're finding it difficult, we say, well, how can we break it down so that you can do it, or you get further into doing it, rather than saying, they can't manage it, so we're going out to play on our own. hang on.
They're never going to.
Do we? Like, is that what we do in school? I'm not sure. But those children that end up being to be independent as possible, to work with different adults, to work with different peers, to be able to navigate, you get to secondary school, navigate buildings, navigate where you're going. They are the children that will have the most success. And I always say it's a little bit kind of, when I'm talking at sort of preschool level, when I'm talking about this, and I think I don't want to sound a bit, in the future or a little bit kind of, but isn't that what we want for our children? And I think of my son at 19, when we're talking about adulthood and where he's going and where he wants to be and what he wants to do and who he wants to live with. It is those skills, those independent skills, those social skills that are standing him in good stead. Now, he can still work on some stuff. I'm not saying we're working a lot on making my meals. But it is those things that will get, and I think is the same for everybody.
But it's that social expectation. Yeah. You need to be quiet in the library.
Yeah.
You're going to queue up for things. Yeah. You're going to have to wait for things.
Yeah.
And it's that, I've got to wait. What can I do?
Yeah.
And it's that sort of, there are certain rules, like carpet time or assemblies, that are very different in adult life, but actually there are other versions of that. Assembly is called a meeting in adult life.
Where you just have to sit through it and nod, look like you're listening.
But stay awake and make sure you look like, if you're literally picking the stuff on your shoes in a meeting in adult life, you will get not so far.
Yes, exactly. And we know for some children with Down syndrome, those things are really hard. But again, it's finding out that what is okay for them as well, and where they can still thrive and reach their potential. So for some children that would be really difficult, but we need to, again, talking about going out in public, for example, there are some children that would find that really hard, but we go, well, on the flip side of all that, it's about making sure that the public are understanding as well. And this is where we want to go. This is where we want to bring a little bit of understanding to good old Joe Public as well, that they don't have to stare and that it's okay if you've got somebody here who's doing this and it's no big deal. And I think we want to empower parents and families and professionals, but we also need to make sure that just in general, people have more understanding about what Down syndrome is or could look like. Definitely.
And again, as you're talking there, you're talking about that potential. And it's a really hard thing to know and measure. Yeah. And it starts with being aspirational, but it's almost got to be flexible aspirational.
Yeah,
you've got to aim up here, almost like you start with typical, air quoting typical. They can do everything a typical child can with some, but you're going, cool, that's what you should be going, we'll have lower expectations and lower aspirations. No, you've got to be aspirational. But as you kind of know, it's not, okay, so why is that? Is it that processing? Why can't they? Cool, okay, so let's change that. Can we still get them to there? No. Yeah. But it's not just saying once you get one thing they can't do, they're down here. Yeah. It's a spiky profile.
And it's having those discussions. Being absolutely, in schools, in preschools, having those discussions amongst staff, it's okay to say, do you know, that didn't work? It's not a failure, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's try something else. And I always kind of say, actually a wise woman once said to me, it is progress, not perfection. It is about having those open discussions that didn't work for him or her. What might work? How can we change this? And being able to have those kind of discussions. Yeah, we want to have high expectations, but we need to know what that high is for our different children. Yeah.
So I always think that failure is, I don't like the word.
No.
If I do something and I get it wrong, I haven't failed.
No,
I've just learnt that way didn't work.
Absolutely.
If I do it exactly the same again and I get it wrong, now I fail because I
if
haven't
you do the
learned.
Same and don't change anything.
Yes. That's failure. I often will do multiple. I will often get lots of things wrong, but it's always a different thing I got wrong every time. And that's the important thing. It isn't. If you tried something that didn't work, no one's failed. You're literally going, well, that's not working. We've got to find what does work.
What does work, yeah.
And there is a typical, you're talking about this learning profile, but our children aren't so kind to us. They may not just have Down syndrome.
No.
There's lots of co-occurrence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you might be having a quite a selection
Absolutely.
of challenges.
And I think, because, we have Down syndrome, but there, of course, will be, children with Down syndrome and autism, just like, if they haven't had Down syndrome, and other conditions and other health conditions that might impact as well. So we're looking at Down syndrome. We know about that, but you can add all the other wonderful mix of things that we have in life as well.
It's not a shield.
No.
That once you have Down syndrome, you're going to have nothing else.
Yeah.
I've got.
That's it. I've got the Down syndrome shield on. That's all I've got.
It's going to protect me from everything else.
And it's that as well as those wonderful individual differences. That it does make it a little bit complex, and that's why I do the job I do, because it can be hard, and we do need to kind of support professionals and parents, and we're saying that. I'm a parent, and I need support, as well. I don't know everything, and as I said, as my son's getting older, reaching adulthood, that is way out of my comfort zone. I don't know. I was like, all right, when he was in preschool, I was like, okay, preschool, primary, I've probably got most of this, but I still had support, still had people coming in to see him in school, still had specialists coming in and giving advice for school. But yeah, as he's got older, it's a whole new ball game.
Do you mind me asking about your son?
No, not
I
at
won't
all.
go too.
No, that's okay. I have to say hello. Hello, Daniel, and also hello, Alice. Very important.
So, like with your son, he's 19.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he's surprising you.
Most of the time. Whether it's... I always say, is it... Hang on a minute, is that so you're 19 and you're hairy and hormonal, or is it because you've got Down syndrome? Not sure. But yes, always. And I love that. And I think, without getting a bit too kind of, he made me a mum, and he probably changed the way I am a parent. He made me see, people always say, made me see the small things, but boy, those small things are brilliant. And then Alice came along and sort of did things quite naturally without a lot of help. It's like, hang on, whoa. But it does make me, and certainly does make me kind of see those small things, yeah. But he's doing all right, yeah.
And that's the thing. I think you have this expectation of what your child's life will look like. You literally, the moment they're born, it seems to flash through your head. And they don't always turn out to that lovely future you predicted without even asking them if that's their future. You've just decided the moment they're born.
Yeah.
But it's different, not less.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It is different. And I think, and I can't speak for anybody else, but we didn't know he had Down syndrome when he decided, at long last, to make an appearance. And it was a surprise. And again, you do have your first child, especially, you have in your head, and you probably don't realise you've got them, but you do have kind of images about what your life will be like and what you're going to do. And suddenly a curveball comes in and you think, well, that's all gone to pot. And it was a scary time, because I felt like I knew this boy, and then suddenly I didn't. Like, you weren't supposed to have Down syndrome, so now I don't know what that is and what it means. And you do go, and the stereotypes are still around. And I think I was a teacher, and I have worked with children with Down syndrome. I even had a young girl with Down syndrome in my very first class as a newly qualified teacher. She's probably in her 30s now. So I thought, well, I'm inclusive, I understand. But when it happens to you, it's very different, because it suddenly is, that's the life that you absolutely didn't think you were going to have. And it was scary, and it was very unknown. But also, when I look back, I think when I had my daughter, it was still unknown. But you just do have these kind of images. And I have to say, and I've chatted with other parents about this, the first thing that popped into my head once the diagnosis was confirmed was, he's going to have really good hair. And I thought, of all the things to think about, that's it, because it went to those stereotypical pictures and thoughts of people with Down syndrome kind of having bowl cuts and duffel coats and kind of plodding along. And I thought, with all the things I could think about, it was having a good haircut. And I remember someone else said, one of the first things I worried about was learning to drive. But again, you think, why is that the first thing? But your mind is off on all these kinds of things.
But it is based on...
really weird things.
It's based on what the media has shown you. It's what the world has taught you about Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And reality, it's not much in the media.
No, it isn't. And it certainly wasn't then.
No.
And I think I can certainly see how things have changed from when I had a young girl with Down syndrome in my class. So we're talking 25-ish, more than that, years ago. There was no support, none. We didn't know anything about Down syndrome at all. There was no kind of places that we could reach out. We learnt some Makaton, but my goodness, she was included in everything we did. That was a non-negotiable. But we bumbled along, but she was absolutely part of the class, as she should have been, and that was our kind of goal. And then when my son came along, I was thinking, things have improved. I can see how things are a little bit different. I had a really good experience at the hospital. People were really kind and, kind of nice about it. Nobody sort of said, I'm sorry, which we do here. I'm sorry about your son you've just had. I'm not sorry. It's surprising. It's a bit of a shock, but I'm not sorry about it. They were great, actually. But you just let off you go. Thanks for coming. Here's a leaflet and off you go. I've got great friends and family. They, of course, are all surprised as well and wanting to support us. But I knew in my little finger we'd be okay. And then just become they're just yours. He's my son. That's it. He's great. He's annoying sometimes, but he's absolutely brilliant.
But I think when you're a teacher, you obviously have a curriculum and a long-term plan, and there's lots of structure about what you're going to do. When you're a parent and it's the weekend, you can do whatever you want. Slightly different. And it's almost like, rather than going, right, this is what we've got to get through, these adaptations I'm going to make for you, you're sitting as a parent going, well, what do you want to do? Yeah. I don't know. What do I want to do? I thought you were supposed to know. And it is that sort of finding out who he is and letting him explore.
Yeah. That's exactly what we did. Yeah.
Finding out, oh, you like that? Cool. Yeah. Okay, do you like that, or this, that?
Yeah. And I think what is great is we realised that both of our children kind of like the things that we like as a family. We are quite... I say dramatic family, that sounds wrong, but we love film and theatre. In my parallel life, I would have loved to have been an actor or something, and he really loves that as well. And my daughter really does as well. And you go, hang on a minute, there's more things that are more alike about the family here than there are about having Down syndrome. There are things that he's at college, he wants to do performing arts, and I'm like, brilliant, because that's something that we love, and he's great at it. Ask him to tell me some numbers or maths, no, but ask him to tell me what scene 5 in Macbeth is, he will know it. Ask him to recite monologues from Blood Brothers, he can do it, but he cannot, tell me quick number facts to 10. But that's not important, it's not motivating. So it was lovely that we kind of realised that actually life isn't just about Down syndrome, that diagnosis, it becomes your actual life. It's our normal life. Well, what is normal? I don't know, but it is. And we do stuff at the weekends, he's older now, so it's more about his girlfriend and going out on dates and things like that, which is great. I'm thinking, yeah, all right.
And I think there is something about that, kind of when you have Down syndrome or you're autistic, you're like, oh, I want a sense of, oh, let's bring them together. Let's get lots of children with Down syndrome together. Yeah. Oh, you don't actually like each other. No, you're supposed to. You've all got Down syndrome. You're supposed to get on really, really... Yes, there is understanding, yes, but actually, you like this, you like that. You're a Tottenham supporter, you're an Arsenal supporter, absolutely. You're a Man United...
And more of those things are linked to your family and your family's, enjoyment and things like that. It's important, I think, to have a base, and I see this in lots of charities and DSUK, is having a community of families and parents that do understand, that do have children with Down syndrome. You're absolutely right. It doesn't mean you'll instantly be best friends at all, but it is really important, and certainly you will find your friends within those groups. And I've certainly got groups of people that we meet up and have a good old moan and a chat and a laugh, and they're people that are going to help me as well, and you find those, and that's really important. The other thing, it's really important, I think, and again, as Daniel's getting older, but also for Alice, who doesn't have Down syndrome, is seeing other people with Down syndrome and that representation. That's really important. Daniel, and it's not very correct, but he does refer to his chums as his Down syndrome chums. That's not, which is not what I call anybody, but he knows that they have Down syndrome, and he can make that kind of call. I say, oh, we're going out with so-and-so, and he go, oh, my Down syndrome friend. I think, yes, but that's not what we would say. But he knows that, and he recognises people with Down syndrome. And for him, seeing people with Down syndrome on the media and around and in films, has been really, really important for him.
And there is a lot more of that over the last few years.
Yeah.
So we're on Strictly,
Yeah.
and also the film, was it called Champions?
There's a film called Champions with Woody Harrelson. The film that sticks in my mind was called The Peanut Butter Falcon, and it's got Shia LaBeouf in it and an actor with Down syndrome, I think called Zach Gotterston. And as I said before, as a family, we're quite cinema people. We go a lot. Daniel absolutely loves it. And it came out a few years ago, and we decided not to tell him that there was somebody with Down syndrome in it and just see. And if I could have videoed that moment where the penny dropped and he was watching something and then went, wow, there is somebody with Down syndrome. And it is, I can picture it now. It's kind of one of those things that stayed in my mind. And he kind of looked at us and was smiling and then sat up in his seat. I don't think he ate any of his snacks for the rest of the film. And I just thought, yeah, that's it. You know, you're seeing someone who is like you in inverted commas. Bonus is that my son would like to be an actor. So there was somebody, with Down syndrome in a brilliant film that just I could see made my son puff with kind of excitement. And I thought, that's, we need that for our children. We're not saying that everybody with Down syndrome is going to be on telly or going to do those things, but we need that sense of representation.
We're also not saying they can't.
No.
And that representation is something that I kind of, in my head, I've explored over the last few years for various reasons. And as a white male, it's something which never really occurred to me because white men are everywhere. I can do anything I want because a white man has already done it. And when you start looking at other things, you start going, actually, how much representation is there? And it's actually, what are the role models for our children?
Yeah.
And things like that. And you start sitting going, and actually you start going, well, I can do anything because I know I can do anything because I've seen so many people like me doing anything.
Yeah, which is really powerful, isn't it?
But I think loads of us don't know it's there, and we have that power because we're seeing it. Yeah. It's almost like we just don't notice it. It's assumed.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things if you don't see it, it's because you have that privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it varies, doesn't it? Because we've had wonderful Ellie and George on Strictly and presenting CBeebies. I love, which is amazing, and I'm like, that is brilliant because it starts discussions as well. So we've got that as well, haven't we? We've got the people with Down syndrome seeing people like them, but we've also got discussions. We've got, hopefully, that's where parents can start conversations with their children. I remember a little while in CBeebies, I can't remember her name, but there was a presenter who had one arm.
Yes.
And I was like, brilliant. Because here we've got another person, who's been successful in her own right, but also discussions. And it was a while ago because I remember my daughter being at the age to watch CBeebies, and she talked about it, and we had a good old chat about it and what it meant.
She was so good.
And she was brilliant. But I also know there was a bit of backlash when I say I know, I don't actually know, but from a bit of social media, that some children were scared. And I thought, again, that's okay. That is okay, but that is the time to have a chat about why are you scared? Tell me why you're scared, and I'll talk to you about it. So we still need to have those discussions, and seeing more people with disabilities and differences out and around and on the telly is really important for those discussions. I love it when I see an advert, when I see a person with Down syndrome just in an advert. because that's the subtle, and that helps us parents just to go, yeah, you're important. There's a Sainsbury's advert about, I don't know, going back to school. There's somebody with Down syndrome. There's a Marks and Spencer's advert, and one of the models has got Down syndrome. Yeah, you believe that my child should have some nice clothes, thanks very much. And that's really important. That's important for parents and for the wider community to go, these people with Down syndrome do need to have clothes.
Because there is kind of, when we talk about kind of in the media, generally there is that, it's like a journey, that kind of representation goes on. It's, you're going to have somebody with Down syndrome, and basically the storyline is they have Down syndrome, so we can share it. And you're like, they also have lots of other issues going on. And you kind of go through that thing, and you see kind of, disability rights and all that thing. You see it's great. But actually, when you just see someone in a school, in that Marks Spencer's ad or that advert, why are you there? Because I'm just like everyone else. I'm not here because it's actually, when we get to that point where they start having their own issues and about relationships or work or something, like, now we're there. To me, that's the final bit where we're not going, somebody to learn from.
It would be lovely if it's right if no one noticed it, does it?
Yes.
It's just, I always think if I was ever a director, I'd always have people with Down syndrome as extras, just because we have people with Down syndrome in life, and I just think it would be lovely. But I'm hoping that the more we see, the more that happens, the more it just is really natural part of life.
But I think we are, and again with Ellie on Strictly, wasn't it? Again, that was just, okay, nothing's happening, it's quite normal. Okay.
And surprise, she's really good. But also what I loved is they didn't shy away from saying things like in the rehearsals, Ellie is a visual learner, and the lovely Vito would kind of have things written in a list for her. And I thought, again, you're just naturally saying in a natural rehearsal that she learns best this way. So they had cutouts of the judges so that she knew where they would be. And I thought, brilliant, that is so natural, such a wonderful adaptation. It's not a big deal, and she's great.
And again, it's when, because we go right back to sometimes in schools, if you go to that learning resource, it literally feels like you're going to learning resource. So therefore your kids are going, I won't go to learning. I don't want to be one of those children. I want to be normal. And it's that sort of stigma. But when you start watching Strictly, and actually how you're supported in the classroom, you're watching someone on TV being supported in the same way. You're like, well, that's all right, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not, I've said it, it is complex, but once you sort of get in the zone and you get on in it, it shouldn't be too tricky. It's kind of, once schools and kind of, get in that kind of, I get it, right. And it starts to become a little bit more natural. But again, all our children are different, so it's really important to say that some will need more support and will continue to need more support, and that's equally as valuable.
But it gives you an idea of that basic understanding of this is where they are likely to struggle. Yeah. This is what their likely challenges are, but also their strengths, and you can just then start with that and use that information and go from there. It's really powerful. Now, two of the links I've got to share is the Early Years Development Programme and the Primary Development Programme. Right. So I'm guessing they're specifically designed for schools, maybe?
You are correct. So DSUK is an online national charity, and I think, again, unfortunately, it's a bit of a postcode lottery about where you can have support. Now, I work with some fabulous charities in person, because that's where I live and where those charities are and where I'm able to drive. We were very lucky when Daniel was younger that we had support locally to us, but many, many people don't. Many people don't. So where do they go for this support? And that's really where DSUK came about, to be an online charity with everything there, so that wherever you are in the country, you can access support and information online. So from that, sort of as small acorns grow, or big acorns grow, we've developed lots of programs. There's all sorts of things on there, lots of health information, all sorts of communities, for anything you can think of, really. But this is where, EYDP, which is the Early Years Development Programme, and that is for professionals that are supporting children at preschool age. So as I said before, preschools, nurseries, childminders, those kind of people. And we provide everything in a portal. I love that word. It's a bit Doctor Who-y, isn't it? In a portal, but meaning they can go online and probably see me doing lots of videos to discuss lots of things. And we cover pretty much everything. So we cover that learning profile. We cover what play might look like. We cover early literacy, early numeracy, communication, behaviour, everything that's important in those early years. Lots of videos to access, lots of resources that they can download and print off if they like. And then we also offer a drop-in session. So there is some face-to-face. So every month for the early years programme, people can just pop on and see me and go, oh, Sarah, can you help with this? We've got this is happening, or we've tried to do this. So talk about how we might find the answers in the portal, but also to go, right, this is what I would suggest. How about trying this? And they can come on and have a chat, a face-to-face chat with a professional. We have other people, so it might be someone, I'm not a hearing specialist, so we have other professionals will come on and do, this is what you need to know about hearing. We might have physiotherapists come on and say your child might need this. But it is for, absolutely, resources. It's a one-stop shop for everything that you would need for a year. And you can renew it if you so wish. And the same with the primary education programme. So that's for professionals working with children in primary schools. So any schools, mainstream, specialist schools, again, have the online resources in the portal with all the things you could probably think of to find your way. Lots of information sheets, lots of resources to download. So they're there for you. As well as, and they do weekly drop-ins. So every week, if you've got a little question to say, do you know what, I don't know the answer to this, or can I share this with you? My colleague Becky Baxter, who is the Director of Education for DS UK, and I've worked there for a long time, she will be there to hopefully answer questions. So we're providing that support. It's not in person, but it's as in person as it could possibly be online. And we try to make it really personal for anyone that wants to come on. Yeah.
Excellent. And you've also given me links to all the social media channels.
Lots of social media, and that's part of, so DS UK call that PADS, which is Positive About Down Syndrome. And it's the community part of it, isn't it? There is Facebook groups for all ages, all different sort of stages of where you are. So I'm in one as a parent, which is sort of the adult groups. There's all sorts. There's preschool groups, early development groups. There's special groups for the dads. Let's not forget dads, really important. Grandparents groups. There's groups and support for families that children have heart issues, because there are more common health issues linked with Down syndrome. Again, doesn't mean they can't have anything else as well, but heart is a big one. So again, if you've got a child who's born with a heart issue, that might be where you need to go and get support first, because that's the immediate need. And I probably missed many out, but there's a lot going on on there.
And all those links that you've shared with me,
yes.
And including website and email, you can find, as always, in the show notes or wherever you listen to the podcast. So lots of useful information to help everyone learn more and support young children and adult young people.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on the day today.
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed it, learnt lots. And I will try and find that peanut butter.
The peanut butter falcon.
Peanut butter. I had a hawk in my head.
It's great.
Falcon. So I'll try and find out of that. But thank you for those listening to the show. If you haven't subscribed already, click on that subscribe button. Don't forget you can follow us on the social medias: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. We're on all of them. I think I've covered all of them. And if you're looking for a simple, secure way to capture and share evidence of learning, or a way to capture pupil voice, a way to celebrate and share achievements, or a simple, safe way to communicate with parents, you need to have a look at Eversense. Eversense is our evidence system that does so much more to help boost parental engagement. To find out more about Eversense, visit the B Square website. You can also find out about our online training, our CPD, read our blog, watch our webinars, and so much more. And you'll find a link to the website and to book a meeting with me so I can take you through our software and help you understand what it can do for you. And you'll find those links in the show notes. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Zencast. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.